Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And it's great to be with you on this last Tuesday of January, which of course means that spring training is not far away. And yesterday, there were a couple of big moves. I just talked about it earlier this week. It was yesterday I was talking about it, how there had been no real big trades. There was a good big trade yesterday. We'll talk about that momentarily. A free agent signing yesterday. We're going to talk about how that affects the not only fantasy world, but the reality world as well. Last night, I will just pause for a moment and let you know that I went to a college basketball game last night. I went to see my alma mater, the North Carolina Tar Heels, visit Raleigh and the North Carolina State Wolfpack, and the Wolfpack was favored. It's been a bad year for Roy Williams' crew wearing the light blue. Okay, a bad year. And NC State jumps ahead 7-0, and the crowd is wild and jumping up and down. And then with about 3 minutes left in the game, it looked like someone had stepped on a fire ant hill. I mean, the North Carolina State fans, they were leaving in mass, down 8 points with 3 minutes left in the game. I tell you, if I'm an NC State player or coach or a member of the administration, I almost want to feel like you have to issue a statement because those are not really fans. Those are people who expect you to win, and if you don't, we're going to be no part of it. That's the thing I love about this network. We pull for our players, we pull for our teams no matter what. I took a video and put it on my Facebook page. It really did look like a fire ant hill that you had stepped on. So North Carolina wins by 10 points in Raleigh. It was a great atmosphere for me because, of course, I pulled for the winning team, and I got to revel in the fruits of victory there at the end. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you before we get into the news of the day, the baseball of the day. Yesterday, there were two really big moves. First of all, earlier in the day, around the time the show was on yesterday, the Reds agreed to a 4-year, $64 million deal with outfielder Nicholas Castellanos. Now, there are two opt-outs in his contract. Yeah, he's got an opt-out after year 1 and an opt-out after year 2. So if he were to have a monster season in the bandbox known as Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, he could be with Cincinnati only 1 year. If he doesn't have a great year but has a great year in year 2, he's got 2 bites at the apple. So after either year 1 or year 2, he could opt out of the contract. And we know that Cincinnati has already earlier signed free agent Mike Moustakas. It's exactly the same contract in terms of money. It's exactly the same agent. So now look at that red lineup. I have already talked about the two teams I'm going to talk about prior to these trades. I was applauding them. And I was saying, I think the Reds win the division in the Central. I even more think that now. The pitching is there. When you look at Bauer, Sonny Gray, the list goes on. When you look at the bullpen with Amir Garrett setting up Iglesias. And if you remember Iglesias, one of the closers that Chappie and I talked about on our Tuesday night show a week ago, now they add another bat. They signed the Japanese outfielder. They've got Castellanos. They're talking about trading Senzel away. If they do, will they get an arm? Will they get a bat? Suarez, Galvis, Moustakas, Barnhart. If Votto has any renaissance of a year, that red lineup from top to bottom, it's incredible. Castellanos, and from a fantasy perspective, what a great landing spot for him. Great American Ballpark. Is there a better hitting ballpark than that one in the major leagues? 27 years old. He'll be 28 in March. So let's call him 28, okay? And he hit 289 with 27 home runs, 100 runs scored, 73 RBIs in 615 at-bats. Last year split between the Tigers and the Cubs. Now, when he got over to Chicago, I've talked about Tiger Park, Comerica Park, being a park where home runs go to be outs in the outfield. When he got over to the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, he hit .321. His slugging percentage went up over 100 points. In just 2 months there, he hit 16 homers, 36 RBIs in 51 games. So now you've got Senzel, Shogo Akiyama, Jesse Winker, Orestes Aquino. Castellanos will be an everyday player. The Reds have, once again, a glut of outfielders. We've heard this before. I think the Reds go with a regular lineup, fantasy-wise. Akiyama and Castellanos, I think, are critical fantasy players as well as reality players. Will Akiyama adjust to the American game? Now, the thing about Akiyama, Castellanos, any Cincinnati Red, think about their division. Time zones, travel. Okay? Not a lot of distance traveling. Now, Pittsburgh is in the Eastern time zone. I get that. Cincinnati. Then you've got the Central time zone with the Cubs and the Cardinals. But distance-wise, these are not long flights. Not a lot of travel involved when you're playing half of your games within the Central Division. So, once again, I've said I like the Reds to win the Central. This free agent acquisition only makes me feel more so that way. Now, Senzel. Now that the Reds have signed Castellanos, they're considering, reports say, trading Senzel. And that makes sense with the group I just named. And I didn't even name Phillip Ervin. Now, Senzel is 24. We've heard about him as a top prospect for years coming through the system. Last year, Senzel hits .256, 12 homers, 55 runs scored, 42 RBIs, 14 stolen bases in 104 games. Now, if he stays in Cincinnati, he'll probably hit leadoff, and he should benefit fantasy-wise. I think if he stays and he starts, and then, of course, the big one, he stays healthy, his power-speed combination is mighty attractive fantasy-wise in 2020 playing for Cincinnati. If they trade him, then it's all about who to and where does he land. I'm not doubting the talent of Nick Senzel. I'm questioning and wondering about the opportunity. And that's what it's all about in fantasy. It's about ability, skill, and second opportunity. So we'll keep our eye on the Senzel market. Now, yesterday afternoon, news broke that the Diamondbacks had acquired Starlin Marte from the Pittsburgh Pirates on Monday. Marte means to Arizona that Ketel Marte moves back to the infield. Starlin Marte hit .295 with 23 homers, 97 runs scored, 82 RBIs, and 25 stolen bases in 2019 for the Pirates. He's 31 years old. He contributes in almost every category. Fantasy-wise, a great player to have. Now in Arizona, I think in a better situation, better bats around him. He's going to score more runs. He's still going to steal bases. He's going to play every day in center field. Great move by Arizona. I said on the show last week, I think Arizona challenges the Dodgers for the West. I even more so feel that now. That lineup is strong. Escobar, remember, over 35 homers, over 100 RBIs last year. Chappie's favorite first baseman, Christian Walker. I'm laughing. Ketel Marte, who had a breakout year. Nick Ahmed, who had a breakout year. David Peralta, a great hitting left-handed bat. He murders right-handed pitching. And now you add Marte. They already added Cole Calhoun. Look, that outfield has some gold glovers out there. They're going to, in a reality sense, we don't care about that in fantasy, but in a reality sense, that's a great defensive outfield now. They're going to put up runs and they're going to win games. I think they win 90 games. I think they make the playoffs. The National League, each division is pretty strong. The West is strong. I mean, the Dodgers speak for themselves. The Padres are better. And I think 90 wins gets you into the playoffs in 2020 in the National League. Now, will they win the division? Could be. That's a really good team and a really good move. So what does Pittsburgh get in return? Well, they get Liover Peguero and Brendan Malone. Peguero, a shortstop prospect. Now he is ranked as Pittsburgh's MLB ranks him as number 7 prospect in the Pittsburgh organization. And Brendan Malone, a right-handed pitcher, is now ranked as the 8th best prospect in the Pittsburgh organization. So let's talk about these prospects. First of all, Peguero, his estimated time of arrival in the major leagues is 2022. So he's probably 2 years away. He has a hit tool of 55, a run tool of 60. Not a lot of power tool only 45. He signed out of the Dominican. I didn't know much about him, so I did some research I'll share with you. He signed out of the Dominican at the beginning of the 2017 international signing period for almost $500,000. Made his pro debut in 2018, beginning in the Dominican Summer League, and finished as a 17-year-old in 2018 in the Arizona League. He was in the Pioneer League in 2019. He well established himself as an up-and-coming prospect. He has the chance, scouts say, to be a special hitter, impactful swing from the right side of the plate with plus speed. Last year, he hit .364 in the minor leagues, 8 stolen bases, hit 5 homers, 27 RBIs. The Diamondbacks rated him as a pure shortstop with good hands. And I guess you would say he is the prize of the trade. Now, they also got Malone, Brendan Malone, Brennan Malone, who has a 65 rated fastball, a 60 rated slider. So he's a power pitcher, a right-hander. He's from my home state of North Carolina. Yes, he is. So you know he's got to have some talent, right? His fastball gets up to 96 miles an hour. Now, last year was his first pro year. Did not pitch much, but looks to be a big player in this trade. So, assuming that these pitchers and this shortstop pan out down the road, Pittsburgh could have a good trade here. They have no major league ready talent at this point. We know what Marte can do in the major leagues. So, Arizona goes to camp in a couple of weeks with their team set. Castellanos in Cincinnati, the last really big-name free agent. There are some more I'm going to talk about in just a moment. San Diego, they are willing to send 2 young major leaguers and at least 1 prospect to Boston, along with outfielder Will Myers, in exchange for Mookie Betts. In order for the Padres to take on Betts' $27 million salary, they want the Red Sox to pay more of Myers' contract. Myers is owed over $61 million over the next 3 years, and Boston is already offering to cover about half of that. So these talks for Mookie Betts are more than just talk right now. That's why I'm bringing it up. And I know